Hello, it's Mr. Flynn here. This is a lesson about the sole trader. So we're going to really be moving on now. We've just been learning about the entrepreneur and risk and reward, and now we're going to be looking at how businesses are set up and run. Okay, so this is a sole trader. So we've got a picture here of someone who has a camera, and I would imagine, just looking at this picture, that they have a business whereby they take pictures of people. So they are a photographer, and what they will do is they will charge themselves out for that service. Now what I noticed from this picture is that this person is here on their own, and that is really a good definition of a sole trader. Okay, let me just explain. So the objective, so by the end of today, you should have an understanding as to what a sole trader is, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of setting up in this way. So if you were looking to run a business one day, one option that you might go for is to set yourself up as a sole trader. Okay, so we're going to learn all about what it is like to set up as a sole trader. Okay, so first of all, business ownership. So the word business ownership is the way in which a business is owned. So there are 4 types of business ownership which we will learn about. There are a few others, but these are the different ways in which somebody in this country can set themselves up as a business. Okay, so we're focusing very much on a sole trader. So this is the first one. It's the simplest to set up. So I have some examples here. I have 3 pictures. So starting on the left, I have someone who is a hairstylist. Quite often, hairstylists are sole traders. Another word for a sole trader that you might hear is sole proprietor, but we will learn it as a sole trader. Okay, so this person here is in business on their own. Okay, so they don't report into anybody, which you would do if you worked for a salon. There are obviously some hairstylists who are employed by salons, but for the basis of this example, this person here is on their own. They don't report into anyone. Now what normally happens in hair salons, and some that I know of, is what they do is they actually rent the chair. So they rent the chair off of people, and what they do is they pay them an amount of money per week, and then they turn up, and then whoever sits in that chair, they cut their hair and they get the money. Okay, right, moving here, we have another example here of someone who is a masseuse. So they are in fact manipulating and massaging people's muscles. It's another good example of a sole trader. So this person here is completely working for themselves. So if they choose to come in and work in the morning, it's entirely up to them because they're working on their own. So moving across here, we have an example of a plumber. Quite often plumbers are also sole traders, whereby again they just take on jobs from people, maybe advertise themselves through Facebook, and then they are picking up those jobs and charging however much they want to charge people, and then they are working on those jobs. Okay, so there's some examples. So a good definition of a sole trader is a business that is owned by one person. Okay, so the word sole means one. So there is one owner. Okay, so if you, for example, were to set up a business as a sole trader, you would be on your own. Okay, now that's not actually to say that you couldn't employ someone. So it's really important definition to know it's not a business with one person in it, but with one owner. So I personally could run a business on my own. If I was maybe wanted to be a plumber, I could run a business on my own. If the work was getting a bit much, I could employ somebody to work alongside me. They wouldn't own it, they would be my employee, and I would pay them to do certain jobs. Okay, so just bear that in mind. It's not someone with one person in it. A sole trader could have 10 people in it, but it has one owner. Okay, first task, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to read up a little bit about a sole trader. It says on the top sole traders and partnership, but I've just got the sole trader bit here. You can either read it on this PowerPoint or I have attached a sheet. So if you could read through it, and what I want you to do afterwards is I want you to fill out a knowledge table which you can keep, which will have some advantages and disadvantages, and you'll be able to answer an exam question about that. So you can either pause the video or you read it from here, or you can find it. So read up about it now. Okay, after you've read up about it, I'd like you to fill up this information table. So come up with a definition as to what a sole trader is, 4 advantages and 4 disadvantages, and this table will help you answer an exam question later, which I want you to send back to me. So just please put those into the right slots there. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through the advantages that hopefully you've put in the slot. Now, imagine if you were the owner of a business on your own. Then you could make every single decision you wanted. If on a Monday you decided that you didn't like Mondays and you wanted to start work at 12 o'clock, then you could. Okay, if you enjoyed playing golf or doing something else on a Friday afternoon, you could close the business on a Friday afternoon because all the decisions are made by that one person. There is nobody that can stop you from making any decision. Okay, now that a big advantage, of course, is that all profit being made, if you're the sole owner of a business, you keep it all. So if you make £100,000 profit, very nice, it's all yours to keep. If you were in partnership with someone, you'd have to share that profit. So that would cut it in half. Okay, we said this earlier, they are very simple to set up and run. I could set up a sole trader now. I don't have to do anything legally. I don't have to write anything down. I just simply have to register for tax, and then I would set up a sole trader and I'd start trading now. It'd be absolutely no problem. There's no process to go through in order to set up a sole trader. So simple. Those market traders that you might see in the middle of Southampton or anywhere else could well be sole traders. Really simple to set up and run. Okay, so the owner, as well as making all the decisions, the owner has all control over the business, so they decide on all direction of that business. If someone came in and offered £1 million to buy the sole trader, owner has the control over what's going on. Okay, the disadvantages, as someone would be working on their own, it's likely they'd work very hard. So it would be long hours and of course lots of stress, lots of worry, maybe early mornings, late nights, sleepless nights, etc., until the business is doing well. They're generally quite hard to make bigger because of course decisions are only made by one person. And think about this, if the sole trader goes away on holiday, who's running the business? If the sole trader is sick, who's running the business? Okay, so the reason why it's hard to expand is because quite often a bank who could lend money, they don't really lend money to sole traders in the way they might lend money to slightly larger businesses, but they would lend money, but it's just a bit harder for a sole trader to get that. And then lastly, we have this one, which is a really important term called unlimited liability. Okay, I'm just going to explain what unlimited liability is. So liable, the word liable, it's not reliable, where you can count on somebody. It's liable, which means legally obligated or responsible for. So if you are liable for something, in the eyes of law, you are responsible for it. For example, the legal responsibility for you falls upon your parents or whoever looks after you at home. When you're at school, the teachers and the school are liable for your safety. We are legally obligated and responsible for you. Okay, so when you're liable for something in business, you're legally obligated or responsible for it. Unlimited, as you probably would know, unlimited means there is no limit. Okay, there is no limit upon it. Okay, so when we're talking about unlimited liability, we're talking about a business being legally responsible for all the debts within the business. Okay, and as a result, all those debts must be paid. So if a business has unlimited liability and they have debt and they owe money to a bank, for example, then that bank will come after all personal possessions that the sole trader owns, which is often a house or a car or something like that. So a disadvantage is that if the owner falls into any debt, then a bank or anyone that owes money can come after personal possessions, send debt collectors around, etc. Okay, because there is no difference between a sole trader business and the person who actually owns the business. I will go into a bit more detail about that in a later PowerPoint. Okay, have a little go at this multiple choice quiz. I'll tell you the answers directly. So a sole trader is a business with between 2 and 20 owners. Is it a business a person who is in business on their own? Is it a large company who can sell shares, or is it a company which has unlimited liability? Pause the video and decide which one it is. I'll give you the answer next. Okay, the answer to that question is a sole trader is a person who is in business on their own. There are 5 of these. Okay, an advantage of being a sole trader is limited liability, simple to set up and run, unlimited liability, or long hours. So pause the video, decide which one you think it is, and I'll give you the answer just now. Okay, the answer to that question, so the advantage of being a sole trader is it's simple to set up and run. Okay, next one. A disadvantage of being a sole trader, so pause the video. Okay, so the answer to that one is, the disadvantage of being a sole trader is unlimited liability. So a disadvantage, of course, is unlimited liability, meaning that if they're in debt, they could potentially lose personal possessions. So I'll just read this. A sole trader cannot employ staff, legally can only have 1 worker, is the largest type of ownership, can employ staff. So which one do you think that is? Pause the video. Okay. The answer to this one is a sole trader can employ staff. Okay, so it's none of the others. Okay, and finally, unlimited liability is when the owner cannot lose personal possessions. An advantage of being a sole trader, when the owner have a lot of debt, when the owner can lose personal possessions. So which one is that? Okay, to give you the answer now, unlimited liability is of course when the owner can lose personal possessions. That's the word unlimited, so they are liable for all the debts of the business. Okay, and until all those debts are paid, then anything that sole trader owns can be sold. Okay, here's the exam question that we'd just like you to send back to us. Okay, so it's about a hairdresser, and they're thinking about setting up as a sole proprietor, it says. So I've used that different word there, just in case we see it in an exam and you can differentiate. They are the same. A sole proprietor is the same as a sole trader. Okay, so explain 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of setting up in that way. So if you're explaining it, you can't just give the bit of knowledge, you need to have an example there as well. Okay, so hopefully this lesson has given you a little bit of clarity in terms of what a sole trader is. There are some other videos on YouTube which you can have a look at, okay, which will just give you a bit of pure knowledge on a sole trader. So please do that and go back to the reading. But send us back this 8-mark exam question and your answer. We don't need to see anything else back because everything else was about gaining a bit of knowledge, okay? So good luck, and we look forward to receiving that back from you. Thanks then, bye.